Hi, I'm Jamie Redknapp and you're watching Football Stats Online.
Yes, and welcome back, football fans, to another episode of Versus here on Football Stats Online, the show which takes two players and compares them statistically together. Today is no different as we see Paul Pogba take on Dele Alli. Based on stats over this season and last season, who is better?
1, 2, 3.
So for those who don't know, I look at three attributes. I look at defensive contribution, midfield contribution, and attacking contribution. Based on the player's position, I place more weighting in terms of their specific skill and specialist area. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Now so far, as well as this season and last season, Paul Pogba has played 54 games, while Dele Alli has played 52 games. When we look at the stats defensively, we can see that Paul Pogba has made more tackles with 81 and more interceptions at 79. The only thing Dele Alli excels is losing less tackles and being carded less for bad tackles. Now, as you know, in Football Stats Online, we always look at the averages because, well, some players may play more games and that could influence the stats. And when we look at the averages, however, we can see that the stats don't really vary here, as Paul Pogba still wins with tackles won at 1.5 and interceptions at 1.46. As both players have played similar amounts of games, there's very little variance in the stats. So round 1 for defense goes to Paul Pogba. Now swiftly moving on to attacking. When it comes to attacking, Paul Pogba again excels in his successful dribbles with 156 and his total shots at 190. But any fool can take a lot of shots, and that can be seen as Paul Pogba's accuracy is a lot less than Dele Alli's accuracy at 36% against Dele Alli's 58%. And when it comes to the crucial thing in terms of attacking goals, Dele Alli far excels Paul Pogba with 20 goals to Pogba's 12 goals over this season and last season. And again, as we take it to the averages still remain the same, with Paul Pogba still being better in successful dribbles and total shots. But again, Dele Alli with that 58% shot accuracy and 0.38 goals per game. Now yes, Paul Pogba has made a way more successful dribbles, but for me, goals influence games, and so for that reason, I'm going to give it to Dele Alli. So round 2 goes to Dele Alli. So it's one apiece, Paul Pogba for defense, Dele Alli for attack. But now we come to the specialist area, the midfield battle. Who is the better player in this area? Now when we look at the stats for the midfield battle, we can already see Pogba excelling in terms of his successful passes, total forward passes, chances created, and assists. Dele Alli, however, has more key passes at 72 against Paul Pogba's 69. And even when we look at the averages, we can see that Paul Pogba still excels as both players have played similar amount of games, with Dele Alli still having the more average in terms of his key passes. So, who is the better player in terms of midfield? Well, I'm going to have to give it to Paul Pogba simply because he excels in terms of everything, in terms of his passes, forward passes, and assists. Dele Alli does have more key passes, but for me, Paul Pogba just edges it and takes it. So round 3 goes to Paul Pogba. So it's 2-1. So does this mean that Paul Pogba is better than Dele Alli? Well, I have to say Dele Alli put up a great fight in terms of his statistics. I didn't think it would be this close. On one hand, you have Dele Alli, who's very influential in terms of scoring goals, and on the other hand, you have Paul Pogba, who just about does everything in terms of midfield and defense. So, with that being said, and it was very, very close, I have to say, I'm still going to have to give it to Paul Pogba, because despite the fact Dele Alli does get more goals, Paul Pogba as a midfield player is more complete. But I have to say, Dele Alli, being very young, has a great future ahead of him, and I would love to do this again to see who is better in a couple of years' time. But for now, Paul Pogba is the better player over this season and last season, so Paul Pogba wins this duel. So there you have it. Based on my opinion and based on those stats, I think that Paul Pogba is better than Dele Alli over this season and last season. What do you guys think based on the stats you've seen? Do you think the stats are right? Do you think I should add or take some away? I'd love to hear all your comments in the comment section below. Please do comment. If you like the content on this video and you like any of the content on Football Stats Online, then please do subscribe. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Take care and peace to you.